and gentlemen, hello and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is the August 6th, 2020 edition of my program, of my podcast that I record right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. But little special this week, little something out of the ordinary. I'm not live. I'm not recording live. I prepared this episode, got it all ready because I will be unavailable at this current time, at the very, very moment where we usually record live, which is at Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, just in case you're wondering. So you can come back next week and the week after that. I will be back next week doing this live. So if you're popping in and you're like, oh, well, the show's not live this week, oh, what a bummer, that's fine. You can still stick around. I'm debuting it as a premiere right now on YouTube. So the chat is open. You guys can chat. But, you know, maybe you're just listening to this. Maybe you're listening to this whenever you want. Maybe you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application because the Mr. Warren Hayes Show is available on a lot of podcast platforms. So maybe, you know, the fact that I'm not live, you're like, I don't care, Warren, I never watch you live. But you know what I mean. You know, because there's always people who pop in, to hang around live throughout the evening, throughout the proceedings. But it doesn't keep me away from talking about pro wrestling, and that's what's awesome. So if you're a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Patreon, well, then there's not going to be a post stream tonight either. We'll find a way to convene and talk about wrestling to sort of make up for it. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of these special circumstances. But don't worry. Everything's going to be back to normal next week, I promise. But hey, you know, if you do want to show some support for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show, here, listen, this is what you can do. Super easy, very, very easy. If you're listening to this on YouTube right now, give it a thumbs up. Share the video. Get people to watch this. And that's the kind of stuff that YouTube really likes. If you're listening to this as a podcast, give it a review, a like, a subscribe, a follow, however you can do it on your favorite podcast app. That kind of stuff really, really helps. And you can also join the Mr. Warren Hayes Patreon. Go over to patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes and subscribe. And then, yeah, you get access to the post show and some extra thoughts and stuff like that. There's probably going to be some expansions this month to the Patreon, and I'm excited to see what I can do exactly for those. But yeah, we're definitely on our way. And it's a good way to show some monthly support for what I do, not just for the extra content, but for the content you see here as well. Or you can become a member of this channel if you go to youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. There's a join button there, and you can join the channel as a member. And it's really the best option if you are. If you like to come to the live shows, if you like to come to hang out in the live shows, then you unlock a whole bunch of emojis, custom emojis, just for the show right here. So that's cool. Everybody likes emojis. Emojis are fun. So why don't you can check that out. Those are great ways to show support. And of course, you can subscribe if you want. I mean, if this is the first time or the second time or the third time you come, I hope that I can earn your subscription. I work hard for it, and I know your time is precious. I know you can't subscribe to everything all the time. You get inundated with notifications then, right? You just get overwhelmed. But if you do, well, if you do subscribe, then I feel that I will have earned it, and I appreciate it even more. So thank you in advance for whichever way you decide to show some love for my little corner of the internet here. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, if you want to get proper, excellent, top-notch coverage of women's wrestling, you get over to belltobells.com. That's BELLTOBELLES. And that is the spot where you can get all sorts of women's wrestling coverage. It's a good time, a good place, and good people. Good fun, good times. I don't know. All right. So there we go. Hey, I'm already done with the housekeeping. That was short. Jeez, maybe I should record more often and get into the stuff right away. Let's do it. Let's go right into the weekly wrestling inspection. All right, let's start it off on the right foot this week, shall we? Let's start with some cool beans. We're going to talk about New Japan Strong. New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, which was announced. It was announced last Friday evening. It was an announcement by New Japan Pro Wrestling of America, NJPW. As if the acronym wasn't already kind of convoluted. They announced that it's going. New Japan Strong is going to be a new show that they're going to be airing every Friday night in lieu of Lions Break Challenge, which had been airing over the past couple of weeks. I guess that was an experiment to see if people were going to tune in, were interested. Probably paying off for them. It's going to be broadcast on New Japan World, and clearly they're going to be focusing on New Japan talent that is based in America, that is currently based in America. And I'm okay with that. And to do this, to get like people excited about it, they announced that they're going to kick off New Japan Strong with the inaugural New Japan Cup USA tournament. So it's going to be a single elimination tournament, exactly like the New Japan Cup. But the payoff here is that the winner is going to get a match for a chance to win the IWGP United States Championship, currently owned by one Jonathan Moxley. I think this is great. I'm super excited for that because now I liked Lion Break Collision because it was like an hour of wrestling that was really, really easy to consume. Great matches, put forward some fantastic talent. And now apparently we're going to be leaning in more to the proper stars, or at least I'm doing air quotes for those of you who aren't watching. Not just the young lions or outside talent, but the actual wrestling staff of New Japan. The brackets of the New Japan Cup have been announced. On the left side of the brackets, you have Carl Fredericks and Kenta, who are going to go at each other in the first round, as well as Jeff Cobb and Tanga Loa. So that's cool. Then on the right side, we got David Finley versus Chase Owens, and Brody King from Ring of Honor taking on Tama Tonga. Of course. So clearly, that's what we had heard. Kenta was in North America. I think he still lives in Orlando. I think he's still based there. So Kenta is in North America. That's exciting stuff. He's going to be taking on Carl Fredericks. Hey, here's some flash predictions, quick predictions. I'm excited that Kenta's going to be there. I think he's going to make mincemeat out of Carl Fredericks. Jeff Cobb versus Tangaloa. I think Cobb should go forward. Tangaloa, fun, but I think there's a lot more value in Cobb, especially when you get to the quarterfinal match. If we get Jeff Cobb versus Kenta, are you kidding me? That's the one we want to see. That's fantastic. That'd be a fantastic match right there. Over on the right side, Dave Finley and Chase Owens. I think you go with Dave Finley, especially since when it comes to the bottom. To the second match, Brody King versus Tama Tonga. I think Tama Tonga goes forward. So I don't see them setting up like an all Bullet Club feud or an all Bullet Club match set up on the other side. I think Dave Finley, they tried last year in the latter part of 2019 to give Dave Finley some fire, doing the whole Fin Juice thing and before that. So I think we get David Finley versus Tama Tonga. Tama Tonga comes out, and we end up or Dave Finley comes out on top, and we get Kenta versus Dave Finley, which I think is a very interesting match. I think it's very fresh, and I mean, this is the kind of situation where Dave Finley has an opportunity to shine, so hopefully he'll make the most of it. I really do. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Every Friday, New Japan Strong. Woo! I'm all in for some more New Japan. That's for darn sure. And since we're talking about New Japan still, I'm going to continue the Cool Beans train because we saw Minoru Suzuki versus Yuji Negada again this week. It was or last week, I should say. It was a rematch from their New Japan Cup Classic that was held on the Summer Struggle Tour that's going to be leading into the Summer Struggle event at the end of August. It wasn't as thrilling as their New Japan Cup match, which I really think is one of my matches of the year so far, but it was really good. I mean, and it's the same talking points, but it's still so amazing to think that these are two 52-year-old guys that are unafraid of to just go at each other, to be completely violent with each other. They are the standard bearers of a style that New Japan was known for, still is known for today, but has since transitioned and updated its style as well to follow current trends of wrestling as well. But you go back to basics when you see Suzuki and Negada go at it, and you look at how hard they hit each other and how brutal they are with each other. You're like, there are guys half their age who don't work this strong, who don't work this well. Fantastic match again. You should check it out. And don't let the fact that I downplayed it by saying it's not as good as their New Japan Cup match. The New Japan Cup match was something special. That was like, it's one of those moments where you get lightning in a bottle and you're like, Jesus Christ, what am I looking at? This was really good in its own bubble. It's absolutely fantastic. There was a pay-per-view this weekend. Did you know that? Talking Shop-a-mania. I just want to touch on this really quick because I watched it. I didn't watch it live, but thanks to the folks. Thank you very much, by the way, to the folks of Fight TV who are always supplying me with Twitter contests and codes to watch these pay-per-views. I really do appreciate it. This was a wrestler party, and the fans were invited. It was a party for wrestlers, and we got to peek in. This is something that, as fans, we never get to see. And 20, maybe 30, 40 years ago, we would have never, ever, ever known the existence of. It was full of inside jokes, insider terminology, self-referential stuff, current events, the firings, whatnot. If you're into following wrestling news online, this was right up your alley. Because, if you follow the rumors and the news and all that, my God, it was right up there. And it was silly. It was a silly, silly event. Now, I get that there's a lot of people who ordered it and absolutely hated it. I mean, there was virtually no production value, and I'm not saying that as a knock. It's a reality, and I think everyone was okay with that. The humor was often very crude, and again, maybe not up what some people liked. I mean, comedy is very subjective as well. I myself cringed at a couple of things, but I don't know what people were expecting out of Talkin' Shop-a-mania. This is a podcast that the Good Brothers have and outright call it a shitty podcast. They say that, they put very little effort into it. This was a reflection of it. It's the brand. That's what they do. It's like, we have a shit podcast. We're going to put on a shit show, and that's what we got. And to a certain extent, maybe curb your expectations, maybe do a little research before ordering it. I honestly, this had been pre-taped. This wasn't live. There was promotional footage being leaked. I mean, there was promotional material being leaked. It was clearly outside in someone's backyard. I don't know what anyone was expecting, honestly, past this. It was fine. I mean, it's not something you're going to go back there and watch. It's something that is very, very much a time capsule. Maybe, in a few years, this will serve sort of as an anchor point as we look back historically and say, oh, well, where was the business at this time? Well, look at what was happening here. But other than that, I mean, it was just like I said, a party. It was silly, stupid. I really think there was a little something for everyone, even though it might have been buried under other things. I thought it was okay, and I can completely understand why people didn't like it. Still, cool beans, because I'm glad there was something like that was done, because it did feel light. It felt very cathartic for everyone who was involved there. Plus, we got to see Nature Boy Paul Lee. And that, my friends, in and about itself, is something special. Let's, you know what else happened this week? Okay, that was also cool. Some cool beans. The AEW Women's Tag Team Tournament Cup debuted. Now, I'm not, y'all probably, you heard last week my rant on AEW's women division, and it still hasn't changed. I'm still not suddenly becoming very, very favorable. But if we're going to talk about things in a vacuum, perhaps or at least even within context, I think there's an argument to put forth that the Women's Tag Team Tournament Cup is a cool beans type of situation. It started on Monday nights. It's going to be on YouTube on its own programming block. I didn't hate it. First and foremost, the thing that popped me from the start, absolute start, Veda Scott on commentary. Veda she's an indie wrestler who has all the tools to kind of do it all. Not only can she go in the ring, but she's a great talker. And she's great on commentary. She's done commentary in Shimmer and Shine multiple times. She's very, very good at it. And I was really glad they picked her up, because this is she has wrestled with most of the women that are on the AEW roster. She knows them, knows their movesets. I think it was a particularly smart get. Good job, AEW, for bringing Veda in on this. Smart stuff. I pop for that. Then we had two matches. We had the Nightmare Sisters versus Penelope Ford and Mel, who did the deadly draw and picked each other. And then we had Nyla Rose and Ariana, the former Cameron, versus Ty Conti, the former Tainara Conti, now known simply as Ty Conti, and Anna Jay. I liked the second match a lot more than the first. Folks, Brandy Rhodes is not good at wrestling. And it's so weird that they're leaning into her. Well, not weird, but it's still a strange decision that they're leaning so hard into her to push the women's division forward. She's a great talker. She's very charismatic. She's good at being a character, as a performer, as a wrestler. Man, I can't stand her spear. Yeah. I love that, but the first match was okay, but the second one was definitely better. I love that Anna Jay got the full Dark Order to escort her out. It's the little details like this, but that mean a lot in terms of storytelling. Everyone in the Dark Order came out like they usually do with Brody Lee's matches or Ten's matches or Uno and Grayson's matches. That's cool. I love that. Ty Conti it was fun to see her back. My God, her kicks are great. Nyla Rose, I've said it before, but I think we have to hammer this one home. She is one of the most improved wrestlers of 2020. Whenever I have an opportunity to talk about it, I will. In fall 2019, I would cringe at the idea of Nyla Rose being in a match. And in 2020, I'm like, give me more. She's become so good, so fast. She's improved so much my goodness, we really have to have proper conversations about that, because I think a lot of people still have perceptions of Nyla Rose from her early work that we saw on AEW last year, and she has just propelled herself. It's fantastic. Ariana, she was messy, but she was brought in because she has a big social media presence, and that's what they wanted. They wanted people. They're bringing Cameron in. The strategy behind that was just, Ariana. I should stop calling her Cameron. She has a big social media presence, can reach out to people maybe who are lapsed fans or who gave up and or who've never watched wrestling before. Now they follow her. She says, hey, I'm going to be on this thing. And be like, oh, cool, I'm going to check it out. It makes sense because she really does have a big social media following. But Rose and Ariana got eliminated, and that's okay. I mean, at first I was like, wow, they're tossing Nyla Rose out. But why would you keep one of your top women in the tournament? You kind of want to keep her on the singles side. You keep those feuds alive, and there's no reason to keep Ariana. So is this a reset of the women's division? I think so. I think this is what they're doing. And I can get behind it. This is kind of how it feels. It's like, hey, let's reintroduce you all to the women. So in and about itself, the show was fine. It was better than I expected, and that's good. But yeah, did they have to put this? Did they have to put this on YouTube on Monday nights? Nothing on Dark, nothing on Dynamite. No. Anyway, but that's a whole other thing, isn't it? I kind of talked about it last week. We don't necessarily have to move back into that. More cool beans. Hey, keep the cool beans coming. Big E had his first match of his singles push on Friday against The Miz. I liked it. I thought it was fine. I know a lot of people were like, well, why did he have such a competitive match against The Miz? Well, because it makes sense. Because he's fought The Miz in tag team situations before and they were never squashes. Why would it suddenly become a squash here? I think that would have insulted my intelligence a little more. I thought the match was fine. It wasn't anything mind-blowing, but fine. I think we're all excited at the prospect of Big E getting a singles push. And if his finishing move is the stretch muffler, my God, that's great. I'm okay with that. I think the stretch muffler is still one of the best names for a finisher in all of professional wrestling. And it somehow, the wackiness, the weirdness of a stretch muffler, the name, it just fits Big E so well. Plus, I mean, he has the arms and the strength to make it convincing. So yeah, I'm good with that. More cool beans. Let's keep going. Drew and Randy Orton's promo. Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton's promo on Monday was real good. And you remember last week when I was saying that this is a feud with Randy Orton is exactly what Drew's reign needs. This is what I meant on Monday. Randy has history, tenure with the company. He's a Hall of Famer to be, right? He's been doing such fantastic work, since coming back with Edge since the beginning of the year, when you think about it. Randy has been on one of his most consistently entertaining runs in his history in the company. It makes perfect sense that he leans into the WWE Championship at this point, saying, you know what, this is what I can do. I can do this stuff and I'm good at it. So I love it. I really love it. There's one little gripe that I have out of this, and it's tiny, but again, like, WWE has to lean into some very, very real situations to make their kayfabe angles go forward. Drew referencing the fact that he was fired, and don't get me wrong, this was good, referencing all the shitty things that Randy Orton has done throughout his WWE career, but never got fired. And I like the fact that Randy Orton said, Yeah. I could have been fired multiple times, but I'm the golden boy. I'm untouchable. They need me here. I can dig that perspective that he has. So it's good stuff. But it really does seem like WWE can't create proper, interesting storylines without diving into reality, like they did with Drake Maverick, like they did bringing Heath Slater back in. Always diving into the shoot elements, which are good once in a while. Don't get me wrong. I like a good angle rooted in reality, but when is too much? When is it enough? And I think I've reached a saturation point where I'm like, okay, y'all are feuding for backstage reasons that ultimately only some smart fans are really, really aware of. And we want some fresh stories. We want some new stories. We want stories, right? We just let the boys tell their stories. And I really think that this is one of these feuds where if you left Orton and McIntyre tell stories in the ring, we need all the extra stuff on the outside. I really don't. All right, that's enough cool beans. We've been too much on a good streak. It's broken now. Hot trash. Why did we get another shit finish for the women on Raw? Why did we get another shit finish for the women on Raw? Okay. Asuka, we had Sasha versus Shayna Baszler. Fresh match. Something that the fans were legitimately excited to see. Asuka runs in, attacks Bayley, and it forces the DQ. Bayley's not in the match. She's just hanging out on the outside, supporting Sasha Banks. So I'm like, what? WWE has this impression that we don't understand the rule. Look, the rules in a wrestling match are so goddamn simple. They're easy to understand on a very basic level. This is the framework within which you tell the stories. If you start throwing the rules out the window, then you really lose a catalyst for storytelling. You lose because you're discrediting everything that you've set up. A DQ forced because of two people not involved in the match, fight on the outside. My God, the history, the litany of past WWE matches that should have been a DQ is long at this point. And this ends the match. And then, of course, you get the people who are like, oh, well, that keeps Sasha and Shayna strong. If you want to keep your women strong and you don't want to pick a winner or a loser between the both of them, don't book the match. Just don't book the match. It's so simple. Or find another ending. Find anything else. There are ways to make people look strong in defeat. This shit finish insulted our intelligence. And here's the other thing. This match was legitimately exciting because it was fresh. This is the first time you give us Sasha versus Shayna Baszler and you throw the finish away. And it's the first time you give it to us, a fresh match. Yes, this should have been kept for a pay-per-view. They should have kept their hands off of each other if this is what you're going to do, because it's not fresh anymore. It's not like, oh, first time ever. It didn't feel special. It doesn't feel special. This was bad, and I don't understand why WWE has so much trouble giving proper finishes for the women's matches these days. We're going to go back to some cool beans now as we talk about Raw Underground. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Cool beans for Raw Underground. Okay. Hear me out here, because this is one of those divisive things. This is one of these things where everyone breaks down and picks a side, right? But hear me out, okay? This is one of these things that WWE does that is so stupid but they do it in such a gloriously absurd fashion that I could not just, all I could do was sit back and laugh. I was sitting back and laughing at the sheer nonsense of it. A ring without any ropes or posts set up back in the back of the PC, where you have guys surrounding it with their shirts off, ready to fight. Fucking dancers on a riser. And Shane McMahon is hosting it. It's the most WWE thing. Now, I think that there are different ways. There are ways that they could have introduced it in a much different fashion. Because I think one of the things that made it gloriously absurd was Dad Shane McMahon hosting it with his smile and his white sneakers, and it just didn't work. Hey, you want to fight? Hey, you want to fight? It doesn't work. You needed someone grittier. You needed someone much more visceral than fucking Shane backstage. And it should have been introduced in a different way. It really shouldn't have been like, oh, we're going backstage to Raw Underground. Like, what? They should have had like some of the mid-card guys, like the Viking Raiders, like whoever they used here, Dolph, walking around backstage and hearing some cheering or music. Like they then sort of walks in and is like, what the hell is going on? A little more cinematic, right? Walking in, what the hell is going on here? And then you see PC trainees fight each other and Shane bouncing around, and that becomes sometimes. I mean, let me start over. It's a literary technique, right? To have a character that's supposed to be your proxy in the story, someone who discovers everything around you. It's a storytelling technique. Someone who discovers the universe or the situation, you get to understand what's going on through that character's eyes. Like Neo in The Matrix, right? That's exactly it. Everything is new, opening up to all this universe, this world. Luke Skywalker in Star Wars as well. You identify with this character because they're into this new situation that you don't understand either. And I think that would have been a good way to do it, following this WWE star, this wrestler who comes into Raw Underground and is like, what the hell am I looking at? I mean, they're taping anyway. None of this is live. So might as well lean into it, right? I thought it was stupid. I think it's stupid to have pretend shoot fights. Have wrestlers pretend that they're shoot fighting. This is a whole other level of meta to me. But, I mean, it was so wonderfully done. Now, apparently it scored really big in ratings. Apparently it was a big get. But will it maintain? I would say probably not. This is your typical key desperate WWE. We're dipping in ratings. We need something to get people talking. So we're going to pull the trigger on this thing. And it's going to be a short-term gain because it won't pay off. It ultimately won't pay off because they're not going to use it properly. It's going to lose steam once people realize that it's kind of lame. We all sort of flipped out watching it on Monday because we were like, my God, what is this? But you can't maintain the magic surprise, the magic of the surprise week after week. I think there are ways that they could make it more interesting. There really is. Especially if the Hurt Business is in charge now, well, have them put the fights together. First of all, change the production of it. Change how you produce it. Make it different from what you see on WWE in the ring. Stop with it. It was produced exactly like a match with the cuts and the camera zooms with the punches and shit like that. Now is the time to break out of your production mold, WWE, and gritty yourself up a bit. My God, they love everything to be pristine and perfect, and This is the opposite. If you want us to believe that this is underground, that this has nothing to do with the show, that it's unsanctioned, then you go with a completely different shooting style. Something closer to what you'd see on the independent circuit, I think would pay off. It would be extremely different. Go grittier with it. I think, if the Hurt Business is in charge, like they say, there's right then and there's an attitude that you can bring with it that will be a lot more, that'll be a lot more gangster to it. Cause that's kind of what the Hurt Business is. They're gangsters. That's what they're emulating, right? Dump Shane, get rid of Shane. He doesn't help. He makes it feel corny. Unless you want to continue to make it, because that's one of the things that was really endearing about it on Monday, but it's going to wear thin very, very quickly. But lean into the fact that it's edgier, but you have to go all in on your production. Get rid of the dancers. My God, it adds nothing. It's not even titillating. It's not like, ooh, look at that. It's boring, and it's so contrived. There's nothing good about it. And create stories. Now you can script a little more. You can have little backstage vignettes. There's a whole different feel that you can create here. With it, outside of it being, well, it's exactly like what we do in the ring, but we do it backstage. But look, we'll see what happens. But for now, it's kind of lame. But the good lame. It's the good kind of lame. More cool beans. Let's move on to AEW Dynamite. That 12-man tag team match that they had last night on Dynamite. The Young Bucks, FTR, Page and Omega versus the Dark Order. That was really good. That was so good. 12 people. For there being 12 people in this match, there was a certain amount of self-control. It got chaotic. It was fast-paced. It was wild. And this is what I like about AEW. I think they're really consistent on that level. Out of a couple of examples, a couple of moments, they're very, very consistent with how they start off. Dynamite. Fast and furious match. Things going by quickly. Fast-paced. High-flying action. Gets invested straight off the bat. And you had so much great talent here in this match. Love the storytelling that was told here. First of all, Brody Lee getting the win. I think that's good. I think it's good for him. It's a big win over the baby faces here. Dax injures himself, gets carried back by Cash, and Adam Page, who goes along with him. So continuing to sow those seeds of dissent within the elite. I like it. Despite all the chaos, there was a lot of good stuff happening here. And another thing that I like really quick, I like the fact that people are realizing that Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, the former Super Smash Bros from the indie circuit, wow, these guys are good, are fun to watch in the ring. Yeah, they are. They always have been. They just weren't doing what made them so much fun on the indies. So I'm super glad that this is happening at the same time that SSB are getting their due on top of that, because they are a fantastic tag team. They really are. More cool beans. A lot of good stuff this week, wouldn't you say, guys? Or at least I'm focusing a lot on the good stuff, because there was a lot of good stuff. I think there's a lot. I think this week in wrestling there was a lot of better stuff than there was negative or bad stuff anyway. The Super Wednesday Debate 2020 with Eric Bischoff. My God, I liked the segment. I thought it was fun. It was good to see Eric Bischoff back on TV. I think the role was perfect for him. Chris Jericho and Orange Cassidy had a wonderful, wonderful segment. I liked it. I get it that it's an election year in the US, but already with the NJF presidential stuff and the debate, we can also we can also not necessarily lean in too hard on politics on this level. I get it, but it also feels like very, very WWE, where it's like, hey, we can do skits. SNL do skits. We can do skits too, kind of thing, But I'm just quibbling. I like the segment. I really did. I like Chris Jericho was basically the pattern here was Chris Jericho was answering the questions and Orange Cassidy wasn't because he's the king of sloth style, right? So Jericho would answer the questions, calling Orange Cassidy a nerd, saying that if we went to high school together, he'd kick his ass, wedge him, steal his lunch money and his girlfriend. He makes fun of Orange Cassidy's appearance, saying you stand there in a denim jacket that smells like old salami, Drakkar Noir, and batteries. That was funny. Then there's a question about the rising level of the oceans, and Orange Cassidy gives a long response, educated response, and Chris Jericho's face throughout it all was just absolutely precious. Jericho also calls Orange Cassidy the pimple on the ass of the wrestling business, and he says, next week I'm going to pop you. And then when we get to the question of the rematch at the end, Cassidy answers the question, interrupts Jericho and says, look, I know why you're doing this. You want to say I'm an embarrassment. I don't mind that I'm an embarrassment, but I care about this match. It's one of the biggest match. It's the biggest match of my career. And when you think about it, Chris, it's the biggest match of your career as well, because if you lose to me, what does that look for you? So, I mean, that's fantastic. I also like Bischoff awarding the debate to Cassidy, and Jericho goes, Bischoff, I've known you for 22 years. He says, I can't give you don't award someone a debate. I've known you for 22 years, and I hate you. Bischoff says, it's been 24, and I know how you feel. So this was a really good segment. I thought it was really, really good. And I'm going to tell you guys one thing right here. And you can tell this to all the detractors, all the people who still shit on Orange Cassidy, despite there not being any real reason to do it anymore. The fact that Chris Jericho is working with this guy means that Jericho does see the value in him. He understands the value of Orange Cassidy. He knows and sees how the fans react to him, and he knows how to play off of him to create this moment. He is giving Cassidy a rub. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But Orange Cassidy is coming out really, really strong in it. He's looking really good in this rub right here. I think Jericho knows exactly what he's doing, and he understands that the value of a character like Orange Cassidy is amplified against or juxtaposed to a character like Chris Jericho's. Jericho knows the business. I don't think he works with people that he feels don't have anything to give back or don't have a future. I think this is, again, with this debate, I think this is a big, big deal for Orange Cassidy, and I'm really, really happy for that. We got to get some hot trash here for a little bit. We're going to talk about the women, or the lack of, on AEW last night. We got in their 2-hour show, including commercials, let's say hour and 45 minutes. I don't know how long the commercial. We got under 4 minutes of any mention of the women. There was the Brit angle with Swole, the match, and under 4 minutes for the entire women's division on your flagship show. They take the time to plug AEW Heels. I'm going to be talking about AEW Heels. But they take the time to plug that and say, hey, we're starting this club for women fans. You should join. Why would a women fan join when all you have is one women's match throughout the entire evening, right? There's only that. There's only that one match. And it lasts like 2 minutes. There was zero promotion for the Women's Tag Team Cup tournament. Zero. And it performed better on YouTube, got more views than AEW Dark. Not a single vignette or interview for any of the other women on the roster. They don't care. They just don't care. Oh, they'll take your money though to join the club, but they're not going to put the women on Dynamite. This to me, it fascinates me. It really does. You don't have to necessarily put on 3 to 4 extra women's matches. You could put another match. You could have easily shaved off some time on a couple of matches here to make room for another match. Or just have a Sheeta vignette, an Abaddon vignette, a Anna Jay vignette, Penelope Ford. You might be hurting for women, but use the women that you already have. It's so backwards is what it is. It's backwards. And the thing is that this is a position that AEW has put itself in because it said from the onset, our women's division is going to be a priority. We want to create a space where there's equal opportunities for everyone. This is what you get. And finally, we're going to go back to some cool beans because I want to talk about Moxley versus Darby Allin. That was such a strong main event. It was good stuff. From the promo where Jon Moxley was basically relating to Darby Allin, saying, "Kid, I've had people who love me tell me my entire life, don't do this death match, don't do this stupid shit. But I didn't listen. I did it anyway. And I know you're the kind of guy who's like that as well. So I'm going to tell you, when I beat you up, when it's time to stay down. But I know you're not going to listen." I thought it was great. I like this association via respect. It doesn't tarnish Jon Moxley's character as being like a lone wolf kind of thing, but it does add a little depth to it. Where it's like, this guy's my equal. And I think that's what makes it more special. If Jon Moxley had friends all around, his partnership or his respect angle that he has with Darby Allin wouldn't feel so special. Because he being Moxley, doesn't act this way with other wrestlers. So it helps boost your boy Darby a little bit as well. And this was great. This was absolutely fantastic. Moxley even was busted open during the match because of a belt shot by MJF. There were coffin drops, and it was really, really well paced, strong match. The kind of match that Mox looks uber powerful in. Ends with a paradigm shift. I liked it. I liked it a lot. And this, when I tell you guys, this is the way that you can make someone still look strong in defeat. Darby Allin doesn't look worse for the wear here. He really doesn't. The match was booked smartly so that he would still come out looking strong. Now, I would argue that it's more than damn time for Darby Allin to win a big match because he's still one of the more popular acts in the company. And I think it's time for him to win a big match. I don't think he should have beat Jon Moxley, don't get me wrong, but it's time for him to score a couple under his belt. There you have it, folks. There we have it. That's the end of the weekly wrestling inspection. Thank you again to our buddy Ben for the wrestling weekly wrestling inspection jingle. I really appreciate
Hello,
it.
Warren. It is I, Professional Wrestling Match Bot.
Of course.
I have returned again. I hope you are well.
I am. Thank you very much.
That is good to hear. Boy, that humidity. Am I right?
Yeah.
Are you staying hydrated? Good. It is important that you absorb liquids so your inferior organic makeup can continue to operate without failing.
Okay, thank you.
As for me, I have a liquid cooling system that goes below dew point to specifically cool my CPU to optimum temperature. By going below dew point, it extends the life of my electronic components, allowing me to run at maximum efficiency and achieve 97 to 98% electrical efficiency.
Okay.
Does your drinking water do that? I believe it is time for you to talk about your favorite professional wrestling matches for the month of July 2020.
Okay, good. Good idea.
According to my database of your tastes and proclivities in regards to professional wrestling, I believe the following matches are your favorite professional wrestling matches for the month of July 2020. Shall we begin?
Yes,
okay. Here are your favorite professional wrestling matches for the month of July 2020. Hikaru Shida vs Penelope Ford, AEW Fighter Fest, July 1st, 2020. Is this correct?
Absolutely. This was a surprise. It was the match that stole the show on Fighter Fest Night 1. It was so good. Shida, ring general, Penelope Ford.
Thank you. Tomohiro Ishii vs Hiromu Takahashi, NJPW New Japan Cup, July 2nd, 2020. Is this correct?
Absolutely. Tomohiro Ishii, the MVP of New Japan, plus Hiromu, who is absolutely fantastic. Their styles meshed really well together. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Match.
Matt Riddle vs John Morrison, WWE Smackdown, July 3rd, 2020. Is this correct?
Who would have thought that John Morrison was the guy to put with Matt Riddle and to sort of help elevate Riddle, make him look special? John Morrison, man, he's been fantastic.
Thank you. Asuka vs Bayley, Monday Night Raw, July 6th, 2020. Is this correct?
Hey, you put two of the best in the ring together, you're going to get magic. This, outside of the ending, this match was absolutely fantastic. We were spoiled. And we're
Thank you. FDR and the Young Bucks vs The Butcher, The Blade and the Lucha Brothers, AEW Fighter Fest, July 8th, 2020. Is this correct?
Yeah, this match was wild. It was fantastic. And all the clash of styles that happened throughout this match, it worked perfectly. Good representation.
Thank you. Shingo Takagi vs Sho, NJPW Dominion in Osaka-jo Hall, July 12th, 2020. Is this correct?
Absolutely. Again, two of the absolute best who have such chemistry together. Another fantastic match by Shingo and Sho. Great stuff.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jordan Grace vs Diona Parasso, Impact Slammiversary 2020, July 18th, 2020. Is this correct?
Yes, Grace and Perazzo was one of the show stealers that evening. Such good stuff. Diona Perazzo, man. A lot of people are biting their fingers. Shouldn't have
Thank
slept on
you. Asuka vs Sasha Banks, WWE The Horror Show at Extreme Rules, July 19th, 2020. Is this correct?
One of the strongest women's matches to come out of WWE this year. It's right up there. It was absolutely fantastic outside of the shit.
Thank you.
Ending.
Drew McIntyre vs Dolph Ziggler, WWE The Horror Show at Extreme Rules, July 19th, 2020. Is this correct?
Drew McIntyre has been absolutely consistently good as champion. With Dolph, it was the perfect situation for him to look even better.
Thank you. Bronson Reed vs Johnny Gargano vs Roderick Strong, WWE NXT, July 15th, 2020. Is this correct?
Absolutely. What a great match that was. Fantastic triple threat. Love the fact that they're putting one of the new guys over, and what better place to put him over than with
Thank
two
you.
of
Cody
the-
versus Eddie Kingston, AEW Dynamite, July 22nd, 2020. Is this correct?
This was the most emphatic match that I had seen in a while. Eddie Kingston is fantastic. Everyone discovered him. He's been signed since. A great brawl. Emotional.
Thank
Loved
you.
it.
The Young Bucks versus The Butcher and the Blade, AEW Dynamite, July 22nd, 2020. Is this correct?
Fantastic. I loved the Falls Count Anywhere. It got really good when they came from the back to the ringside. Great match between the both of them. Absolutely.
Thank you. This concludes the list of your favorite professional wrestling matches for the month of July 2020.
Sounds right. Thank you.
I hope you continue to enjoy professional wrestling and professional wrestling matches.
I do too. Thank you for the...
Good night, Warren, and do understand that my concern for your squishy and frail human form is true and sincere. At least as true and sincere as simulated emotions can make them. Ta-ra for now.
Okay, thank you, professional wrestling match bot, for that. Hey, let's talk about Mustafa Ali for a little bit. Again, a guy who has instant star written all over him. WWE brings him back, and then has him win a match, and then the next week, well, he has him lose a match, right? Because I was talking with Alex Pulaski on the Wednesday Night Wars podcast last night, and it's very important in the model of creating a superstar in WWE that you make them hot, but then you cool them down again. And Alex compared it. He said, yes, there's nothing I like more. I love this analogy. Nothing like I love more than taking a frozen pizza, putting it in the oven, heating it up, cooking it, pulling it out, then putting it back into the freezer so I can cook it up again. That's something that we all enjoy. So I thought that was a really good analogy. But Mustafa Ali was on the bump this week, and I want to read his comments. I want to read what he said to you. I don't know if you took the time. I know not a lot of people, not everyone watches the bump, but there's some really cool stuff that comes out of it. And Mustafa Ali here, particularly this time, I thought had some very, very salient things to say. I'm quoting here. As for adaptation, you can't adapt without opportunity. If you don't have the opportunity and you're not given a platform, if you're not included in a discussion, it's hard. You can be the best in the world, but if you're sitting in a dark room and no one sees you, no one sees you. I will always be ready and be prepared, so when that opportunity comes, I'm going to hit a home run, but I need to be called up to bat. I'm a very unique superstar in the sense that it's not about wins and championships for me. I don't have the best win-loss record, and I've never held a championship despite being with the company since 2016. That is not me complaining. The thing that I am craving for and asking for is to tell a story. I can sit here and tell everybody that I have not had that opportunity yet. Look at all the moments I've had in my career. From Money in the Bank with Brock Lesnar to the Ali Kofi Mania switch, Randy Orton, excuse me, pardon me, Randy Orton taking me out, costing me that opportunity. All these, I think, layups are a chance to tell a story and show who I am. They weren't told. As a performer, that's frustrating. I'm craving for an opportunity to tell a story. I feel I'm the best in the world at it, and once I get a chance to do it, it will be something people will talk about for years to come. Time off is hard when it's not your choice. I want people to understand this isn't someone that is mad. This is someone that is so passionate and wants to perform and is trying to figure out why he's not allowed to perform, and there's no real explanation given. To anyone who is passionate about something, you can understand that's frustrating. Now, these types of comments usually come from superstars, wrestlers, who have been laid off from WWE, right? And usually some fans will go like, oh, well, they're just bitter because they lost their jobs. But this is a guy who's employed by the company. This is a guy who's saying textually what a lot of the departed wrestlers from WWE say, but he still has a job there. He's like, look, all I want to do is go out there and perform, and I want to tell stories. I don't give a shit about win-loss. I don't give a shit about your championships. I just want to do what I love to do. And they keep talking about opportunities. He said it himself, right? You can't adapt without opportunity. If you don't have the opportunity and you're not given a platform, you're not included, and if you're not included in a discussion, it's hard. This connects exactly to what we've been talking about for a while now, about the brass ring, about WWE being a meritocracy. You have to earn your spot. It's not that. He said it himself. You have to be given the opportunity. Again, we're debunking the myth of the brass ring you have to grab, of the fact that WWE is merit-based. Booker T saying you have to earn that spot. It's not about earning. You have to be given an opportunity. The door has to be open for that. That's just how it works. And we're seeing it here. I saw the interview on top of the comments here. Ali is a goddamn pro. He's not sitting around. He wasn't sitting around being very mad or angry. He didn't have a frowny face. He was very calm. He was very matter of fact with his opinions. He's like, well, look, this is how it's happening. I just want to go out and wrestle. Why won't WWE let me wrestle? I wish I could tell you, because I really want to do it, and I'm pretty good at what I do as well. It's so refreshing to have a guy like him, and I think this is one of the reasons that help him connect so easily with WWE fans. It's because of how grounded, how matter of fact, how authentic he is in his comments and the way he speaks and what he speaks of. That makes him so refreshing. That makes him stand out from every other wrestler who just talks about meritocracy, not meritocracy, excuse me. Well, yes, about the meritocracy, but that is just inundated in PR speak and the overly scripted promos. There's something so natural and real about him. That's why he connects. That's why people get excited when he's on TV. Because we're like, we can relate to this guy. We understand this guy. But they're not strapping not even a rocket, just like strapping a pair of spring shoes. The spring shoes that you bounce around on, where there's these big coils underneath the soles. You know what I'm talking about? They're not even giving him that. So it's frustrating to hear that, because then on the other side you have Vince McMahon saying, we're going to build new stars, but then you have the stars that people want to see, and we don't see them. They end up just disappearing when they could be connecting with a brand new audience. And isn't that kind of what WWE is lacking right now? A brand new audience? You should check out the interview that he gave on the bump, or check out the comments, by the way. Shout out to our boy Jeremy Lambert over at Fightful, who did the transcription of the interview. You go read the transcription. It's really good, and it's refreshing, and it's nice to hear. And you sort of realize that the bitterness, maybe, if you want to call it that some of the wrestlers feel when they leave the company isn't entirely unfounded and isn't entirely untrue. When the opportunity opens up, if the opportunity opens up, there's a very small window that you can use to get yourself over. It's really wild. Okay. To close this up, I want to talk about AEW Heels. AEW via Brandy Rhodes yesterday officially launched AEW Heels. What is AEW Heels, Warren? I do not know what you're talking about. I do not have the tweeters. I do not go on Reddit. Please tell me, what is AEW Heels? Well, from their own press materials, AEW Heels is a new community for women who love wrestling. The female forward movement, led by Brandy Rhodes and the stars of AEW's women's division, is designed to celebrate and inspire our female fans around the world. AEW Heels is dedicated to making this the best time ever to be a female wrestling fan. Be who you are and come as you are, because we're all going to come together as a community to change the world. There's that line again, to change the world. So, on one hand, okay, and basically, just before I actually get into, there have been AEW Heels get-togethers before this one. I think there's been two. Kristen Ashley, the first lady of the MrWarrenHayes show, and From Bell to Bells covered, was invited to both and covered it. Very cool. Like, these are experiences that she really liked. She came out of it very, very positive. Very, very positive about it. Thought it was a great way to create a space for women to be able to just be themselves and not feel like they're being preyed upon, or because on one hand, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. Clearly, the first two installments were testing out the waters, see how they could do it, what they could offer up as what they could offer up as stuff, to do online. So, because it's a big virtual Zoom call, so that's cool. So to do that, to create a safe space for unrepresented fans, or underrepresented fans is what I should say. That's a good thing, a very, very good thing. It's a place where you can be your gender and not get hit on mercilessly by dudes. And folks, don't think that this doesn't happen. It happens all the time, and this is nothing new. If you're a woman who enjoys professional wrestling, even 15, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, Jesus Christ, when I was more involved on the message boards back then, or on Usenet and RSPW, if any woman sort of announced herself as being of the female gender, she would be swarmed by guys, and she'd be. I know of two women who used to take part in message boards, who abandoned their original account and started up neutral accounts so that they could just continue posting and talking about wrestling unbothered, and never revealed what their gender was, and they were automatically assumed to be dudes, despite the fact that they never said that they were men. That's what the assumption was. This is something that has been happening for a long, long time. It's not a good feeling to go into an environment and feel like you're being checked out, judged, just based on your gender. So to create a space where they can cultivate female fans, I think it's a great idea. I really do. Now, there's a price tag attached to it. It's an annual membership to AEW Heels. Costs $50 to join. So basically, it's a fan club for women, essentially, and you get to have Zoom calls with talent and Brandy and so on, and have this good space. So the price is a thing, right? And I can certainly understand the economics of it. We're in a pandemic right now. Money is probably not flowing as much as it should or would. There are no ticket sales from the live venues coming in for AEW. So I'm sure that they're trying to figure out new ways of creating revenue, right? And I'm okay with the idea of a company wanting to make money. That's the sole reason a company exists. A company stops making money, it ceases to exist. That's what it's for. And no one wants to see AEW cave. Unless you're an absolute apologist for any other of the companies, or one that unabashedly hates AEW for some weird reason. You don't want to see it cave. Competition, diversity in wrestling, for places for wrestlers to work, different styles, different approaches, is so important. So important. But I don't think this was the right approach. And I'm just going to speak on this very, very lightly, because I'm a white man. So I can talk about, in all security, about misrepresentation of or underrepresentation, I should say, of what's the word I'm looking for? Underrepresentation of minorities, of groups, right? Because I think the language that was used was a little weird. It doesn't feel quite as inclusive. You know, the money might be a factor as well, in regards to inclusion as well. I don't think it's as inclusive a statement as they think it is. And there's a lot of people speaking out on that make a lot of sense as well. My pal Harmony on Twitter, who's a brilliant lady in that regard, she says that she tweeted out, she says, the thing that really bugs me is that we're already doing it, creating spaces, safe spaces for minority groups or underrepresented groups to feel safe in wrestling. There are tons of women's wrestling fans, she says, who work hard to build communities and welcoming spaces for each other. So the verbiage could definitely be different. And I do think that the money issue is an issue. I think it's weird that, here, let's create a safe space for $50. You have to pay if you want to feel safe. That's kind of strange. And there is an argument to be made that they could have reached out, they being AEW, could have reached out to groups as well, to other groups to create something together, kind of thing. But the thing that's really weird here is that Brandy Rhodes sort of didn't take well to the commentary, the criticism. And she tweeted out, "Oh, for the love of lemons, my head is aching. This is not about women's wrestling. It's about community and the fans. Now stop droning on and on like that. Little dog barking next door in the dog day heat. Context is key. Reading is comprehension. And I am bored." Not a good response for someone who's an executive in the company, who's in charge. I think this here is Brandy telling the fans, shut up. You're not getting it. Instead of being open and trying to understand what people are trying to tell you, Brandy, your paying customers, your fans, the people that are invested in you, the people who believed you and Cody and the Bucks, when you said you wanted to be a forward-thinking company, inclusive. You've been saying this from the start, that you want to create opportunities for all fans to feel safe. This is one of the steps you're taking forward, and people are telling you maybe not that great. And Brandy, you're shutting people down, and you're saying, I don't want to listen. This is a company that told us, if we see things aren't working, we're going to change them. Well, we're telling you right now. If anything, if this is bothering you, don't respond. Brandy, you're supposed to give at the first AEW Heels, you're supposed to give a seminar on building your brand online, on online marketing. And this is what you go and do. This is not a good look. It's not a good look for you. It's not a good look for AEW. There's a level of disdain here towards the fan reaction where I'm like, my God, you're not opening yourself up to some very, very valid criticism. And you're doing this in a time where people don't have much faith in your women's division. So there was a very, very there is an approach here that kind of feels tone deaf to what's been being said. If you're listening to your super fans, the people who will unabashedly love and appreciate and gobble up without question what you're doing, well, then you're doing it right. But how far are these people going to carry you? And what is the representation that you ultimately like? But this is a whole other situation. Look, what I think AEW should have done in this circumstance is maybe think about streaming. Maybe think about streaming. They have a YouTube channel that's open for monetization. Use super chats, get donations, get memberships on your YouTube channel. Create tiers. Approach it more as a Patreon. Approach it more as a Patreon than just, hey, $50 a year and you'll get this. You'll be able to sit in on these calls. There's something, you'll be able to buy merch. You know, it's kind of wild to me. And it's a model that a lot of wrestlers use. A lot of, look at what I'm doing right now. It's a model that's not alien to people and could have created a revenue stream for AEW that would have been much more approachable and friendly for the average fan. I don't know why they didn't lean into it. Or open up a Twitch if you want. Monetization, getting monetized on Twitch is really easy. It would have happened within a few days for AEW. And they would have been eligible for it. Probably could have struck up a nice partnership with Twitch on top of that. I don't know why they didn't do that. These are all models that people are used to. Something closer to a Patreon. Some streaming. Hell, on YouTube, you can join a channel as a member and then you create your exclusive content for members only. And then people have the choice. But there's a lot of people who are finding it rough in the middle of this pandemic to cough up $50 for this. I get it. Is it worth it? Is it worth a live stream for one live stream per month? Maybe. I don't know. I said one live stream per month. I don't know what the offer is exactly. I don't know how often they're going to be doing, but I understand they have bills to pay. They need the revenue stream. This is what they came up with. But to be perfectly frank with all of you, it's a little tone deaf. And I don't think it's as inclusive as they would like. Or as they think it is, I should say. And I think that the economic model is a little skewed. There are many other options they could have done. Many other options they could have done. But this is what they chose. Again, we'll see what happens. They still have time to turn things around. If AEW does listen to its fans, there are adjustments that they should bring to their model here. But my God, Brandy, don't do this. Don't react the way that you react. I know you're leaning into a heel character online right now. Where it's like, oh, I have an action figure. I'm the chief brand officer. And so I get it. I get that. And I'm looking at the response and I'm like, is she being a heel here? Because if she's being a heel in this situation, she shouldn't. She needs to be very earnest with the fans at this point and be on the ground level and be like, look, you guys, we get it. Or ignore, regroup, rethink, and come back with something else. I think there's a whole context. She said it herself. Context is key. I agree. The context in which you guys are launching AEW Heels right now is not good for the company. You needed a soft approach. This is not a soft approach. But you know what else? I'm going to give a soft approach to my exit, though, today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It was kind of strange. Not going to lie. Recording the show without anyone around, without the usual live chat hanging around. But hey, I'll be back next week doing the show live next Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. So I'll be back. And if you don't ever watch me live, well, hey, it's business as usual, except you were like, man, he's not being interrupted by all these super chats as like per usual. But that's fine. That's fine. The important thing was that I was able to come back out here, chat wrestling with y'all, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great week, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.